What's something that becomes attractive only after 25? What's one thing that's totally unattractive when you're 20, but becomes incredibly appealing after you turn 25? A viral Reddit thread asked this exact question, and the answers are not only hilarious, but also painfully accurate. From the shocking joy of a high-end vacuum cleaner to the deep allure of a well-organized pantry, it seems the definition of attractive gets a major software update around the quarter-life mark. Let's break down what growing up really looks like, according to the internet. There's a weird, unspoken shift that happens in our mid to late 20s. It's like a second puberty, but instead of sprouting hair in new places, you start sprouting a weirdly intense appreciation for things that would have bored your younger self to tears. The old priorities, chasing every social event, the fear of missing out, believing excitement was the only thing worth having, they just start to fade. In their place, a new set of values pops up, centered on peace, stability, and bizarrely, household appliances. A now famous Reddit thread hit on this universal experience, and in doing so, created a perfect roadmap of the journey into true adulthood. The thousands of comments prove that while we all think we're going through these changes alone, we're actually all on the same weird schedule. So get ready to feel seen, because we're about to explore the most relatable and surprisingly attractive things that only make sense after you've survived the first quarter of your life. Let's start with one of the most common themes from the thread: the sudden, passionate love for a well-run home. At 21, if someone told you that in a few years, the thought of a new dishwasher would give you a genuine thrill, you'd have laughed in their face. Yet here we are. One of the top-rated comments, with thousands of upvotes, was simply, a high-quality vacuum cleaner. The replies were a flood of agreement. People weren't just agreeing, they were sharing brands, debating the merits of cordless versus canister, and celebrating that unmatched satisfaction of sucking up a line of dust in one clean sweep. So what is it about a vacuum? It's not really about the machine itself, is it? It's about control. In our early 20s, our lives are often a whirlwind of beautiful chaos. We live in messy apartments with mismatched furniture, and our schedules are run by spontaneity. But as we get older, our home stops being just a place to crash and starts becoming a sanctuary. A clean floor isn't just a clean floor. It's a small patch of order in a perpetually chaotic world. It's a tangible, visible result of your effort, something you have direct control over when your career and your future feel anything but. The vacuum cleaner becomes a symbol of this newfound power to create peace for yourself. This obsession goes way beyond vacuums. The thread was a love letter to all sorts of domestic gear. One user wrote an incredibly detailed, almost poetic tribute to their new Miele dishwasher, talking about its Wi-Fi connectivity and near-silent operation. The enthusiasm was infectious because it's so real. A decade ago, the only machine you cared about was the one blasting music at a party. Now, the machine that silently washes your dishes while you sleep, giving you back 30 minutes of your evening, is the real MVP. It's not just about clean plates, it's about buying back time, which you realize after 25 is the most precious currency you have. And it's not just appliances, it's high-quality cookware that makes cooking a joy instead of a chore. It's a matching set of towels that doesn't feel like you're drying off with sandpaper. It's a bed with sheets that have a thread count higher than your age. These things become attractive because they represent an investment in your own comfort. It's a shift from a life of temporary fixes to a life of quality. You're no longer just surviving, you're building a life you actually enjoy living in. That simple pleasure of a well-run home is a quiet luxury your younger self could never have appreciated. Speaking of investing in your comfort, let's talk about the next pillar of post-25 attractiveness: sleep. A full night's sleep. Remember when "I'll sleep when I'm dead" was a personal motto? When pulling an all-nighter was a badge of honor? Well, according to Reddit, that badge gets officially retired around your 25th birthday and replaced with the "I got a solid 8 hours and feel incredible" award. One of the most upvoted comments was brutally simple: a full night's sleep. The replies painted a vivid picture of this shift. People talked about the pure joy of being in bed by 10 p.m. on a Friday, the primal rage you feel when something disrupts those precious hours, the slow realization that the person who says, "Let's just have a quiet night in," isn't boring, they're a visionary. This isn't just about feeling less tired, it's a fundamental change in how we view our energy. In our early 20s, we treat our energy like an infinite resource. We run on fumes, fueled by caffeine and willpower, and bounce back with shocking speed. After 25, you realize your body is more like a smartphone battery. It has a finite charge, it depletes faster than it used to, and if you let it drop to 1%, it takes forever to get back to 100%. Suddenly, a person who respects their bedtime is incredibly attractive. Why? Because it shows self-awareness. It shows they understand their own limits and have the maturity to prioritize their well-being over short-term thrills. A partner who encourages you to get a good night's sleep before a big day at work is showing a form of care that's far more profound than a partner who pressures you to stay out for one more drink. It's a quiet act of support that says, your health and peace are important to me. You're trading chaotic, exhausting nights for peaceful, restorative ones. You're trading the groggy, hungover morning for a clear-headed, productive day. Prioritizing sleep is a declaration that you're done with the performative exhaustion of youth and are now embracing the luxurious power of rest. It's not just sleep, it's a lifestyle. And a partner who shares that value is in post-25 terms a perfect match. This brings us to what was, by far, the most upvoted and emotionally resonant answer on the entire thread. It's the exact opposite of what we valued in our youth, yet it becomes the gold standard of intimacy as we mature. The number one answer was this: someone who can just sit in silence with you, and it doesn't feel awkward. At 20, I needed constant stimulation. Now, the most attractive thing in the world is someone who can just exist next to you, without either of you reaching for your phone. The single most attractive thing to a person over 25 isn't wealth or looks, it's comfortable silence. When you're young, silence is terrifying. It's a vacuum that has to be filled. A pause in a date's conversation feels like a red flag. We're conditioned to believe a good relationship is one filled with constant, sparkling conversation. We perform for each other, desperate to prove we're interesting and witty enough. But after 25, you've spent years performing. You've done the witty banter, you've told your best stories a dozen times, and you're tired. You start to realize that true connection isn't about what you say, it's about how you feel when nothing needs to be said. Comfortable silence is the ultimate sign of trust and acceptance. It's the unspoken understanding that your presence alone is enough. You don't need to entertain each other, you can just be. A reply to that comment captured this perfectly. A professor once said you should be with someone whose company you enjoy on a boring Wednesday night with nothing to do. Because life has far more of those nothing days than exciting ones. And that's the core of it. We spend our youth chasing peak experiences, but a lasting relationship is built in the quiet valleys in between. It's built while one of you reads a book and the other plays a game on their laptop, side by side in peaceful quiet. This desire for silence also extends to communication. The thread was full of comments praising partners who don't need to text all day. That frantic need for constant contact, which might feel like passion at 22, feels like a demand at 28. An attractive partner after 25 understands that you both have separate lives and trusts the connection is still there without a constant stream of notifications. Embracing silence is a sign of deep emotional security. It's knowing the connection is strong enough to exist without constant verbal proof. If you found yourself nodding along, especially about the joy of a canceled plan or the beauty of comfortable silence, drop a comment below with the one thing you suddenly found attractive after you turned 25. I'm genuinely curious to see what resonates the most with you all. Alright, let's talk about something that feels a little taboo, but was all over this thread: money. Not in a greedy sense, but in a much more practical way. At 20, the starving artist trope is romantic. A person who is spontaneous and a little reckless with their money can seem exciting. After 25, that same person just seems stressful. Because by then, you've likely had your first real encounter with the harsh realities of bills, rent, and the dread of an unexpected expense. Suddenly, financial responsibility becomes incredibly attractive. The thread was filled with comments celebrating things that would sound bizarre to a teenager. People were swooning over good credit scores. They were genuinely impressed by a partner who had a 401k. Budgeting spreadsheets were mentioned with a reverence usually reserved for great art. One user put it bluntly: a boring life with low drama is wildly attractive after 25. And nothing creates more drama than financial instability. What makes this so attractive? It's not about finding someone to pay your bills. It's about finding a partner and equal. Someone who is forward-thinking and has their life in order. A good credit score isn't just a number. It's proof of reliability and the ability to honor commitments. The building blocks of trust. A person who is actively saving for the future is a person who believes they have a future worth saving for. That kind of foresight is a powerful aphrodisiac when you're starting to think about building a life with someone. It's also a sign you're on the same page about what matters. You're both looking to build a life of security, not one of constant financial anxiety. Dating someone who is financially reckless when you're trying to be responsible is exhausting. On the other hand, there's a powerful sense of teamwork that comes from planning a future with someone who is your financial equal. Talking about saving for a down payment or knowing an emergency car repair won't derail your entire lives, that's a level of security far more attractive than any superficial trait. Financial stability isn't just sexy, it's the foundation for a peaceful partnership. Finally, let's talk about the huge shift in our social lives. For most of our early lives, FOMO, the fear of missing out, is a driving force. We say yes to everything because we're terrified of missing a key memory or an inside joke. A free weekend can feel like a social failure. Then, you cross the 25-year threshold, and a new, glorious acronym enters your vocabulary: JOMO, the joy of missing out. The Reddit thread was a massive celebration of this feeling. One of the highest-rated comments was simply, "having no plans for the weekend." This was echoed over and over. The sublime pleasure of a plan getting canceled. The conscious decision to say no to a night out in favor of a quiet evening on the couch. The realization that your social battery is a precious resource to be managed wisely. This becomes attractive in a partner for a few reasons. First, finding someone who also loves a quiet night in is a compatibility jackpot. There's nothing more grating than when one person constantly needs to be out and the other is a dedicated homebody. Finding someone who sees a weekend with no obligations not as boring, but as a beautiful blank canvas for relaxation is a game changer. Second, a person comfortable with JOMO is usually comfortable with themselves. They don't need external validation from a bustling social life to feel interesting. Their self-worth isn't tied to being seen at the right parties. They are secure enough to find contentment in their own company or in the quiet company of a partner. That kind of self-assurance is magnetic. This shift is also about being intentional. Instead of saying yes to everything, you start choosing your time and energy with more care. An attractive partner after 25 understands this. They won't pressure you to go out when you're drained. They'll be just as happy to build a pillow fort and watch a movie with you. It's a mutual understanding that your collective peace is more important than any party you might be missing. It's the quiet confidence of knowing the best place to be is right where you are, together. So what's the common thread here? It seems to be a major shift from seeking external validation to building internal satisfaction. When you're younger, what you find attractive is often about how it looks to the outside world. The exciting partner, the wild social life, the appearance of constant stimulation. But as we get older, that all fades. The focus turns inward. We start to value things that bring us genuine, sustainable peace, not just fleeting excitement. A high-quality vacuum, a full night of sleep, comfortable silence, financial stability, and the joy of a quiet weekend. These are markers of a life being built on substance, not surface. They are signs that we are learning to take care of ourselves and that we are seeking partners who will do the same. For me, the biggest shift was realizing that boring is just another word for peaceful. My younger self ran from boredom, thinking it was the absence of life. But I've learned that a boring life, filled with quiet nights, a clean home, and a stable partnership, is actually a life full of peace, and that peace is the ultimate luxury. It seems that growing up isn't about losing your sense of fun. It's about discovering that joy can be found in the most surprisingly simple, quiet, and wonderfully adult things. If this video felt like a personal attack in the most comforting way possible, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into what makes us all tick. And don't forget to check out the other video on screen about the psychological shifts we all go through in our 20s. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your peaceful, well-vacuumed weekend.